Hi guys, I'm Kristen Netapak, and this is my review of episode 16 of the Vampire Diaries. Okay, so unlike the last hiatus, we've got tons of things to ponder about. So rather than giving you guys just a review and a recap, which I'm still gonna do, I'm gonna tie in a few of the theories based on the things that we saw in this episode. Give you guys tons to think about in the month that we have before we get another TVD. And I'm going to give away season 1 on DVD to one lucky YouTube subscriber, so stay tuned. So first, let's talk about the witches. I'm very happy that the writers decided to bring witchcraft into the foreground of the storyline for a number of different reasons. First of all, I think that it's going to become a more integral part of the storyline, especially now that we know that this is what Klaus is up to. He's got his witches on the side, trying to break the curse in another method. And then, guys, I've said in the past that I think they've been using witchcraft a little randomly, a little sparingly, sprinkling it in when it's conveniently needed. And I'm so happy that they finally pushed it to the foreground and made it and given it a stronger presence. Now, of course, in this episode, 2 people died, and it was both the warlocks. I wasn't actually surprised after it happened. I wasn't sure who was going to die, but after it happened, it made sense because these 2 at this point, they've sort of served their purpose on the show. First of all, they have helped save Elena. They helped keep Elena safe from the impending doom that is Klaus. We got to find out a little bit about the rivalry between Elijah and Klaus and what was going on there. Luca was the one that showed Bonnie how to use more of her powers. And then, of course, Luca was the reason how we found out what Klaus was up to with this whole alternative method to breaking the curse. And then, of course, in the end, Jonas gave Bonnie the inside scoop on how to kill Klaus. So now we have a focus on Bonnie. She's going to be the witch to harness the powers of the burial ground in an attempt to kill Klaus. Now, of course, the question is, do they know where the burial grounds are? Well, they had that conversation with Kat and Damon where Katherine kind of guessed that Damon knew where it was, and I think that she's right. So I'm predicting that Damon is going to find out that Bonnie knows how to kill Klaus, they're going to team up, and they're going to try to make it happen. Side note here, I'm thinking that at this point, the sacrifice is on the back burner and is no longer as big of a threat as we think it is, given the fact that both sides are now trying to use witchcraft to make things happen. They're trying to kill Klaus, and then they're trying to break the curse. And of course, like I said, that's an alternative method and a lot less messy one. You don't need the Moonstone, you don't need wolves, who at this point are no longer in the picture, and really nobody needs to die. So I think that that's the way this storyline is going to continue to go. And like I said, the sacrifice is going to kind of be pushed into the background. So some of my predictions here are because the sacrifice is not so much of a threat, or so I think that Elena is safe at this point. Not only does she have so many people around her, the Salvatores, now Isabelle and John want to keep her safe, but again, Klaus has this other method of breaking the curse, and once he finds out where the burial grounds is, he's probably going to go that method. Which of course makes me think that Bonnie is now the forerunner into dying at the end of season 2. Not because she's going to be the witch to die given the sacrifice, but because we've never at this point seen Bonnie handle that much witchcraft power. We've seen her get a bloody nose, she's passed out, this has been going on since season 1, so the question is, will she be able to handle it? Has she learned enough from Luca? Has she practiced enough, or will she practice enough before the end of season 2 to ensure that she doesn't die in the process? So that's up for grabs. We're going to have to see what happens. But of course, guys, this ends up on the very heels of the budding Baramy romance. We've got Elena, who has now approved it. Bonnie is totally happy. But this is TVD, people. They don't let anyone stay happy. So now let's talk a little bit about Katherine and the whole doppelganger situation. First of all, if Katherine dies at the end of season 2, I'm gonna be pissed. Because yes, she's a bitch and she knows how to push Damon's buttons, as we've seen so many times in this episode. But come on, guys, he knows how to push them back, right? Especially when it comes to giving her a stake in the stomach. But again, she is one of my favorite characters for so many different reasons. First and foremost, we are yet to find out whether or not she's here to help or hinder. And that mystery right there just keeps us wanting to watch her even more. But let's look at her stakes here. First of all, she's in love with Stefan. We know this. We got the whole storyline of how That is why she helped John and Isabelle in the first place, because she wanted to keep Stefan safe. Poor Damon, she didn't give a shit if he died or not. But that makes me think that if she continues to show her feelings for Stefan, and that we know how much she loves him, is she going to be okay eventually with the fact that Stefan wants to be with Elena? Is she going to finally cave in and say, look, I'm going to let those two be happy because I love Stefan and that's what Stefan wants? So I'm kind of wondering if that's the direction that Kat's going to go. Also, Kat is afraid of losing her immortality. She's been running for 500 years from Klaus, so of course she wants Klaus dead. So even if, and this is my prediction, is that even if it's for selfish reasons, I do see Kat coming forward and continuing to help the team at least try to off Klaus in the end. Now that brings up a few points that there's still this storyline here with Katherine loving Stefan, like I had mentioned. And so I'm wondering what's going to happen when Stefan finds out, Kat's not as bad as he thinks that she is. Maybe there's some feelings that get rekindled there. Maybe they become friends. I'm not sure, but I think that that's something that the writers can play with. Now, in terms of the doppelganger, I love the fact that in this episode, they really played up the fact that Katherine can completely pull off pretending to be Elena, given that they tricked Jonas and they ended up killing him in the end. But I'm hoping at this point they're sort of done with that trick because we've seen it so many times. I think it's a little played out at this point. Again, I loved how they used that in this episode, but I think they need some new tricks in the future. So now let's talk about Caroline. This poor girl has gone through so much in this episode. It started off really well with her. We got to see this very romantic moment between her and Matt. We got to see Candace sing, and of course, those of you guys that don't know, she's a professional artist, so of course she has an amazing voice. Just goes to show that yes, we can love Caroline even more. But then, like I said, she had this beautiful kiss on stage with Matt, and that all went down the tubes when Jonas decided to stab him in the neck. So here, I never suspected that Caroline was not going to save Matt. But the question here for her was whether or not after he healed, she was going to compel him to forget. So there was this beautiful moment in the very beginning of the episode where nonchalantly or sort of indirectly, Jenna said something along the lines of, the people that you love deserve to know the truth. And now I think that hit Caroline really hard. And she said, hey, I'm going to take a chance and see what happens. So she told Matt everything. Of course, what we didn't expect was that it was going to trigger this memory in Matt's brain that he had remembered Vicky talking about vampires, and then he put two and two together and thought that Caroline was the reason why his sister died. So my predictions here are that Caroline is going to have to do something. She's going to have to make that choice again. Do I compel him or do I give him more of the story? Now, I think Caroline's a great girl. I think she's gone so far already. She wants to be happy with Matt, especially now that Tyler's out of the picture, or so she thinks. So I'm thinking that she's going to give Matt more information. She's going to give him the details of, hey, it was Damon that ended up killing your sister. Maybe even make him feel for her a little bit by letting him know that, she didn't want to be a vampire and that this whole thing that happened to Vicky happened to her as well. And so there's a little bit of a connection there, so that he can connect with her on that level. So either way, guys, I'm so happy that somebody finally told Matt something, because yet again, we know he really needs something to do. Now, how about Isabelle showing up on their doorstep? Okay, so this entire episode to me was kind of a fight to the finish. Who was gonna find out first, Jenna or Matt? At this point, I don't think Jenna's really going to end up finding out as much as we hope she is, at least through Isabelle. Of course, as you guys seen from my previous theories and reviews, we knew Isabelle was coming back. We didn't know when and we didn't know how. And then, of course, like I said, she just ends up on their doorstep. So this is going to cause some issues, right? Between Rick and Jenna, obviously, Rick's going to have to answer some questions. But having said that, I feel like Rick took himself out of the equation by letting Elena be the one to explain to Jenna whether there was, supernaturals in the town and there's vampires and that sort of thing. And so I think that, there was this beautiful moment with him and Jenna on the porch where I think she was clued into that. He said that there's things that I want to tell you, but it's not my place to tell you. And there was a look in her eye that made me feel like she can forgive Rick for anything that happens in the future because she knows that it wasn't his place to tell her in the first place. So then there's Isabelle. You know, she still loves Rick, and I don't think that she's going to sell him under the bus by saying that, you know, coming out with this whole storyline, hey, Jenna, he's been lying to you this whole time, I'm really a vampire. Because really, Isabelle can think of so many other reasons why she disappeared. She can easily say that she ran away, and that's something that Rick couldn't tell her. Again, she doesn't need to bring up the fact that there's supernatural beings in the town. But what I think is going to happen is that Isabelle, we found out from Katherine, is obviously here to save Elena. Her and John do not want Elena with the Salvatore brothers. And so I'm thinking my theories and my predictions for the rest of season 2 are that the Salvatore brothers have a lot to worry about. So let's look at the facts here. First of all, Matt might know that they potentially killed his sister, made her a vampire, and then killed her. Isabelle and John don't want her near Elena, and they're obviously going to try to make something happen. Maybe they might pretend that they're in cahoots just until Klaus dies and get rid of that threat, but then I think that they're going to turn on them and try to kill them or something along those lines. Tyler and all the wolves obviously hate the Salvatore brothers for obvious reasons. If anybody resurrects Elijah, he's going to go after them. And then we have Klaus, who the Salvatore brothers are standing in the way of letting him near the doppelganger. So I think in the very end here, this is going to be the case of how the Salvatore brothers survive with all of this going on. But you know what might be really interesting? Just throwing this out there, is that now that we know, coming full circle and everything that we just talked about, now that we know that there's all this witchcraft going on and these alternate possibilities of breaking the curse, wouldn't it be a win-win situation for everyone if the Salvatore brothers ended up working with Klaus and breaking the curse without having to sacrifice anybody? But in that case, maybe the high schoolers can get back to thinking about going back to school. Don't think I didn't miss that line. We definitely want to know what you guys have to say, so please be sure to leave your comments below on our website, thinkhero.com, or you can find us on YouTube, Think Hero TV. And for our YouTube subscribers, you can win Season 1 on DVD. Now here's all you have to do. 2 very important rules. Number 1, you must be a Think Hero TV subscriber. So make sure you click the subscribe button if you haven't already. And the second thing you need to do is leave a comment on this video right there. And now guys, how are you going to find out if you won? We're going to tell you when we come back from the hiatus. So the first video that we put out, which is going to be a review for episode 17, right away, we're going to give you the winner. You can also find us on Twitter at Think Hero, and you can always find me talking about the Vampire Diaries on Twitter at Netopack. I'll see you after the hiatus.